The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, REL-MAR McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. The X-Zone comes to Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here live and around the world on the Talk Star Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to give us a call, our toll-free number is 1-877-528-8255. That's toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii at 1-877-528-8255. My email address is xzone@talkstarradio.com. On MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com. And our website's www.xzoneradio.com. And if you'd like to watch, listen, and chat with the coolest radio audience on this planet, any other planet, any dimension, just go to www.xzonetv.com. My producer tonight at Master Control in Titusville, Florida, the home of the Talkstar Radio Network, which is right across the Indian River from Cape Canaveral, is the one and only, the president of the Dr. Gabe Merkin fan club, the lady who has the largest rubber glove concession business in the world, my good friend Melanie. Mel, always nice working with you, even though you wear rubber gloves. And my chat room moderator at X-Zone TV is my friend Rob from Scarborough, Ontario. Rob, nice working with you. Now, listen, there's some great new websites that I'd like you to check out. www.xchronicles-newspaper.com. It's our news site. It's all part of the new transfiguration that we're doing here to bring everything under one tight corporate group. And, of course, that's the REL-MAR McConnell Media Company. And REL-MAR's new website is REL-MAR.com. On tonight's show, we have 4 very interesting guests. Our first guest who is going to be joining me after this first commercial break that's coming up shortly is Stephanie RISELEY. We're going to be talking to her about love from both sides. Now, we're not talking about both sides of one Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific or whatever. We're talking about one side of existence to the other side, both sides. Dr. Shelley Carr is with me in hour number 2. She is one of the, if not the leading authority on the mind-body connection. Michelle Goldberg in hour number 3 is going to be talking to me about Kingdom Coming, the rise of Christian nationalism. And in hour number 4, all the way from the United Kingdom, Richard Lawrence will be talking to us and teaching us how to unlock our psychic powers. That's tonight here on the X-Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network. Today is Thursday, April the 9th in the year 2009. And on this date in history, in 1833, the very first public library was opened, but closed shortly thereafter when somebody checked out the book. In 1872, powdered milk was invented. They must have been using a dehydrated cow back then. And on this date in 1976, the B-1 bomber was approved by Congress, so we could start attacking our enemies with vitamins. And let me see, when we come back from this commercial break, I'm not going to go into whose birthday it is today. We'll do that later on in the show. When I come back from this 2-minute commercial break, Stephanie RISELEY is going to be joining me. We're going to be talking to her about a fascinating story about love from both sides as the X-Zone starts for tonight, Thursday, April the 9th in the year 2009, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network from the studios of the REL-MAR McConnell Media Company in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send an email, xzone@talkstarradio.com, on MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com. And once again, our 2 websites, www.xzoneradio.com. That's our main radio media website. And for TV, www.xzonetv.com. XZoneTV.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone Radio Show, and you're listening to us around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go away.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine like hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining room can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, or psychic phenomenon? Join me, Tim Bartley, co-host of Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, coming mid-January 2017 to the XZBN. We will channel spirits live and talk to them, revealing all kinds of amazing information. Spiritual attachments will be found and removed on the show, and so much more. To find out when you can listen to Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, visit www.xzbn.net for listeners on both sides of the veil.
Stephanie Riseley has been having sex with her husband. Now, that statement in itself may not shock you. The fact that Dan the Man has been dead for a couple of years now might. In Love from Both Sides, published by Findhorn Press in paperback, it's available also in paperback, Stephanie Riseley describes an astonishing phenomenon, the return of the love of her life from the other side. When Dan passes away suddenly, unbearable grief almost consumes his heartbroken wife. While she is in deep despair, Stephanie claims Dan comes back to her. It's just not messages from the other side either. Stephanie describes how they continue their emotional and their physical relationship. Now, while many of us suspect that the deep emotional bonds we share with our loved ones never die, few ever claim to experience love beyond the grave. If they do, we dismiss them as crackpots. Indeed, Stephanie is incredulous when she first experiences Dan attempts to contact her. What makes Love from Both Sides hard to dismiss, however, is the unmitigated raw emotion she shares and the authentic descriptions of her interactions with Dan the Man. Stephanie Riseley is a certified hypnotherapist specializing in past life regression and future progression who helps people change their self-sabotaging behavior. Stephanie lives in Los Angeles and joins us now here on the X Zone. We're going to be talking about Stephanie's book, Love from Both Sides, and Stephanie Riseley, welcome to the X Zone. Welcome back, I should say.
Yes, thank you.
How are you, young lady, and what is new with you?
Well, what's really phenomenal is that how many emails I get from and calls from people who've had this same experience, especially women. I guess the fact that sex is so strong and the connection is so strong that husband, I just got a call last week from a woman in Nevada who told me that her husband, who was a devout Catholic,
Yes.
and told her that he would do something that would prove to her that there was something afterwards. And she was very much a skeptic, and she loved him, and he was the love of her life. And so on the day of the funeral, she is not in a good mood. She does not want to go to the funeral. She just is so upset that he's died. And so suddenly she's dressing, and his phone was on his bureau, and it just started to beep, beep, beep. And he never sent text messages, but she opened it, and he said, "I miss you."
Oh.
That was it. And this morning I got an email from someone in North Carolina who said, "Thank you for your book. What happened to you happened to me. Not only did my husband die, but he came back, and the connection sexually was so strong, and I couldn't tell anybody." So I think that's the good news, is that the connection, that sex is sacred, that it comes from the in-between, and that it is such a powerful force that even though the body dies, the connection doesn't.
Stephanie, is the sexual activity done in the waking, physical, conscious state, or is it done in the dream state?
You know, it can be both. It can be both. I mean, with when I know it's in the book where for me it was both, because I woke up. I mean, just not having sex for a period of time will create an orgasm in sexually active people, because it's an expression of energy and it just releases. But I woke up having an orgasm and knowing that was my husband. You know, coming. I had no idea how it was. And then when he came after in the book, it's 4 months before I actually hear from him. My stepson, on the other hand, is hearing from him all the time, and I'm thinking, of course, he's going to come back and chat to him. Not going to chat to me, but in point of fact, whenever his energy came around me, I could feel it, and I would sink into the heaviness of mourning, and spirits can't get through that. So that's why lights will go on and off and things like that. They can do things with electricity, and but so no, as in the book, it talks about how Dan would say, you know, could we do this now? And I go, okay, you know, have your way with me. And it was pretty phenomenal. It was pretty phenomenal for a period of time.
I was wondering if you could share with us the lead up to the physical encounter that you and Dan had. You know, how long after his passing did this happen?
You know, probably within 4 to 5 months. I'm trying to. It was. Well, he died in my arms. Okay, and I had my hand on his heart, and as his heart stopped beating, I was in bed with him in the hospital, and his heart stopped beating, and it did not occur to me that this man could die. But his heart stopped beating, and as his heart stopped beating, I felt this whoosh through me. And then behind me, I heard, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, because there was nobody who was unhappier being sick than that man. He had never had a sick day in his life, and it was like he was so angry at his body for betraying him. But then after that, and then at that point, he went straight into to Sam, his son, and said, Sam, I'm dead, but I'm not dead. This is far out. He was a hippie, you know. So he, and then it was 4 months after that I decided that, oh my God, he's left me $180,000 in debt. I've got to find a way to make a living, and I'm a writer, so I decided I would begin back up the book I was writing, which was called The Married Girl's Guide to Hot and Sacred Sex. And because I knew that in order to keep a marriage going, you have to keep the sex hot, because otherwise other things happen, right?
Yeah, if the guy starts looking around for other
that
ladies
wife, that wife, she just, looks around and goes, oh, he's cute.
Yeah.
So I got all of these married women, professional women. There were doctors, there was a lawyer, there was a biologist together, and we were talking about how hard it is to keep a marriage hot and fun.
Huh?
It is hard.
Yes.
As you're married, you know that. It's difficult and it takes work.
Sure it does.
So, and especially after kids come, because they're like little vampires. They're beautiful, but they're vampires. And one woman said, all I want is to lie down. That's enough of an orgasm for me. But as these women are talking, it was, I realized that, oh my God, of all these women, I'm the only one who's not married, and I'm the only one who's not having sex, at least with anybody alive.
In the conventional manner.
In the conventional manner.
There you go.
And so the next day I went home, and it was a Sunday. And because once again I was facing Widowhood Sunday, which used to be a lot of fun. I mean, before when I was married. But I thought to myself, my husband had been trying to start a business, and so Sundays had become his working at the computer or handling stress, which meant watching the television, watching a football game, basketball game, or whatever. And so I said I'm writing. I said I miss him, and I thought, oh my God, if he were here, he'd be watching that football game, basketball game, whatever. I said, it just serves you right for dying, And because my energy shifted, I let go of the pain of leaving him, and I heard at that point, I got this blast from the in-between in my ear, like an energy, like a buzz, and I heard very clearly, put the pen in your other hand. And my pen, then my hand started writing, you are my goddess now and forever. We walked a life together that allowed me to love more authentically than I ever have before. Forgive me for not appreciating you more. And forgive yourself for not being Superwoman, because I thought I could save him. And then after that, the conversation continues, and he wants to have sex. And I'm thinking to myself, he couldn't have had this. He couldn't have asked for this while he had the equipment. But he could actually focus his energy inside me. It was phenomenal, and it's not unusual. And then he encourages me throughout the book to write it. I mean, it's mainly because I wouldn't have told anybody about this. And what is interesting is that no one else would have either. So what other things aren't we talking about?
Now, what was it like the first time that he made his presence known to you? Were you afraid? Were you taken back? Were you anticipating the contact?
Well, I mean, you mean that when the first
I'm not talking about the sexual contact. I mean the spiritual contact.
Well, it was gradual. I mean, the few days after he died, I was in an altered state anyway, and I just thought I was going nutty. The night I came back from the hospital, where I left his body there,
yes.
And I drove home thinking, how could this be? And then I went home, and all I could do was scream, and I just until I fell asleep at about maybe 3 a.m. I cried, and what else do you do? But at 6 o'clock that morning, I woke up with a start with somebody, once again, like somebody had just shaken me out of sleep, and I heard, go outside, just go outside. And I went, okay, fine, I'll go outside. And I looked to the east, and there was a magnificent sunrise.
All right, stand by. We're going to have a bit of a cliffhanger here because we have to take a commercial break with the news at the bottom of the hour. Stephanie Riseley is our special guest. Her website is www.stephanieriseley.com. That's StephanieRiseley.com. And Stephanie and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X-Zone continues live and around the world, and even in the other side of consciousness and reality, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Stephanie Riseley is my special guest this first hour of tonight's show, X-Zone Nation. Welcome back, everyone. Stephanie's website is www.stephanieriseley.com, and she is an author, hypnotist, past life regression specialist, and we're talking about a very special kind of love affair. It's not even a love affair. It's a man and a woman continuing to have their sexual life, even though one has departed to the other side, so to speak. Stephanie, before we went to the commercial break, we were talking about what led up to your first spiritual encounter with Dan, and could you please continue?
Well, the sex is such an energy, and it's so interesting that you said that it's a sexual connection that continues, but it was the love affair continued. I just got off the phone yesterday with my accountant who'd read the book, and he said it was such a fierce love affair. And he said, and the passion that you two, even after that you're still grappling with this passion. And it's that passion that I think is, that's what sex is the expression of, and that's the love, and that's the kind of the thrust of the book. You see these two people, both of them flawed, I'm one of them, who are grappling with this huge love, and the love, it had its source in another lifetime. You know, I do past life regressions, and that's because I was sort of thrust into this world. And Dan and I had always joked, because we were both very, very spiritual people. Neither of us wanted much to do with organized religion.
Oh, okay. Now, let me just ask you at this point, and I'm sorry for interjecting. Prior to having the spiritual contact with Dan, had you and Dan, or either one of you separately, investigated spirituality?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're I mean, our idea of a good time was, talking philosophy. And he had some fairly amazing, he'd had an outer body experience. He was a scientist, and he was actually a rocket scientist, and he'd been worked on the Apollo thing, and then he became a lawyer. He became many things, but then he had he was an engineer. He had a very scientific mind, but we were both very fascinated and very interested in the spiritual and very connected to it. It wasn't anything that was foreign to us at all, and that's why we used to joke with one another that we thought we had been gay priests together. And I don't know why it was we said gay priests, but when it turns out, when he came back and he said, well, we certainly were together, but we weren't priests, we were nuns. And that's the progression of the book follows through kind of understanding. It's more or less a transformational journey. It's my own transformational journey, because as he leaves me, when he dies, I'm totally beyond bereft and so afraid that because I'm $180,000 in debt, I have not a job, I have not a way to make a living. But because he keeps just absolutely fiercely saying that the point of power is in the present and do not be afraid. If you keep going, you will survive. And I don't know, I'm standing here in a beautiful apartment I have created that I am so fortunate that I didn't kind of succumb to the fear. I mean, everybody's fear around me was that I'd wind up a homeless person. God knows that was mine. But he kept saying, don't be afraid. And so I think that for right now in these economic times, my story, our story, it's very encouraging, because you can think that the world has ended, and yet it is just an opening. And that's what happened in that year of channeling. I opened more to trusting the thrust of my own life as he got his sea legs on the other side. And he kept saying to me, I'm in the real universe. You are only out on excursion in the learning opportunity world, because this is the learning opportunity world. This is the place where you get to hone your skills for the next go-round. And that's kind of why it's so important to be as fearless in your life as you can, and not let all this crazy fear that just almost toppled us all. Yeah. It did.
You know, I have to ask you about that, because you've got a bit of an edge, more than, I would say, 99.999% of the people on this planet, where you actually have someone on the other side to guide you.
Well, I don't think that's right at all. I think because I have a clientele filled with very professional people. I have at a Harvard lawyer, law review, like Obama, right? Yeah. She was here the other day, and I'm helping her with some issues, and I did a past life regression for her. I've done many things, but in this past, and she's connected to the source of her energy, and she's also a musician and helps and does music for adolescents. And I did a series of past life regressions where she died as a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, one in the war, one in this thing. And then she stood there in the regression, and she said, "Oh my God, I am being sacrificed. I'm being sacrificed." And I said, "Great, how old are you?" She said, "I must be 12 or 13, and I'm with a whole group of girls. We're all being sacrificed. It's a ritual." And I asked her to describe what she saw. And as she's describing what she saw, because I have such a knowledge of goddess-worshipping cultures, I thought, oh my God, she's in Sumeria. And she just described what she saw, and then she said, and I said, go a little farther in time, and she said, oh, it was a ruse. I'm not being sacrificed. We're not. My God, they're having sex with us.
Oh, all right, so let me get back to my question, my point. Yes. It seems that we've taken a segue into a totally different area.
Oh, well, that's how I am.
Well, I'm going to bring you right back.
Bring me back.
Okay, you're back, Scotty.
I can go out there. But so many people have this connection.
Hold on.
That's the point.
They do?
Yes.
Then how come they don't realize it? And how legitimate and how real is past life regression? And how do we know it's real?
Well, nobody's ever going to prove that it's real, and they don't really have to. I mean, I believe it's real.
So is it just a matter of something you believe to be real, that it is real?
there are so many. There's so much literature on this.
Now, wait a sec. Hold on here. There's a lot of literature on Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny too. That doesn't mean they're real.
Right.
So what credibility? What credibility can we actually put into it?
Well, you know what? Even if you don't believe it's real, that if you go back in time, like I have a client who's coming at 8, who the last time I went to, I did a past life regression with him. He connected with this fierceness of a young Indian, like in India, warrior who was writing, and he said, "My God, I never felt so alive in my body." And so he connected to that aliveness in his body. In my own life, when I was a 3-year-old, I saw myself as a doctor. I mean, I was the 3-year-old, but I was a doctor, and I was in an army barracks. I was going from bed to bed to bed to bed to bed, and then my husband used to joke to me that I was more Jewish than he was, and I was born an Episcopalian, and he was born Jewish. And then when he came back, he said, "You are more Jewish than I was. You died in the Holocaust." And I knew I had died in the Holocaust because I was always surrounded by people from the Holocaust. This life is a, I hate to say payback for that, because I died richer than rich, thinking that my money would save me. God knows we've seen that that's not true. I thought that my religion would save me, that my God would save me, and that my culture wouldn't let me down. None of it was true. And instead of fighting against the evil that was, I just let myself walk into a gas chamber. So in this life, I was born a female, which is the lesser, the underdog here, and to people who had no interest in parenting, so they left me pretty much alone. And so I've developed skills, and I'm very proud of myself now.
Sure.
And that's so.
Is it possible psychologically now that we use the phenomenon of past life regression to explain our weaknesses and our strengths?
Well, people, that's religion.
No, I'm not talking religion here. I'm talking about past life regression.
I don't know what we use, because that's a big, that's, why do people come to me? Because I don't do this exclusively. I am a hypnotherapist. I help people lose weight and stop smoking, right? But but when people come to me, they come to me and they want to find their connections to people or places that are problematic. And and then once they see their connection, then they can either heal the wound. Sometimes there are situations that have gone unlooked at, undealt with. And once you go back, if this is the way your brain works, and it's a technique, if it's sheer fantasy, it does not matter if it creates the results that helps you heal. And once again, I have a different perspective on it, because for me, it is very real. I had spontaneous past life regression. So, I studied with Brian Weiss, but when I read his book in the 80s, I went, been here, done that. So, it wasn't, and then I went and studied with him after Dan died, so that I would have the technique, because by that time, I was a hypnotherapist. So it's one of it's a mind-body technique that kind of opens up energy. So you have a disease, something, you're claustrophobic. And if you can go back to the time in Egypt where you were walled in, and you can allow this brain, this entity that's owning this brain, to go back in and sit with that girl and say that everything's okay. I had a totally spontaneous healing of a girl who had, every time she walked into a doctor's office, she fainted dead away. And when I led her back to a time in Kansas in 1850 where a man had kidnapped her and raped her, and a man in a big white shirt with big glasses, and left her to die, and he looked like a doctor. And so she was able, as the Sarah now, to go and comfort the Sally of then, the 8-year-old in Kansas, and now she goes to the doctor quite easily. So it doesn't matter whether it's real to you on the outside, because I was dating a physicist for a long time.
But all right, if it's not real to us on the outside.
No, to other people.
All right. Is it possible that we are then allowing people to live in a world of fantasy since they can't really live in the world of reality?
But this is a world. I mean, this is a big topic, because if you actually talk to physicists, this is pretty much an agreed upon fantasy that we're all living in, that is predicated on some very flawed sense mechanisms.
But we're not sure. But then once again, this is a theory. It's a hypothesis. It has not been proven either way.
Yes, so, you don't need to prove it, because your eyeballs. Your eyeballs are not the eyeballs of a bee. If you were a bee, you'd see your studio in a completely different way.
No, but I know that if I don't pay my bills, I'm in trouble. If I walk in front, wait a sec, hold on.
Yes.
If I walk in front of a moving car, I'm going to get struck over.
Yeah, you bet.
So this to me is reality. Putting somebody into a hypnotic state where you allow their mind to open up and believe, or say that they were part of this realm, that realm, or the other. Once again, it leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to the reality and the credibility. I've got to take a commercial break. We'll be back on the other side as the X Zone continues right here on the Talkstar Radio Network. 1-877-528-8255 is toll free. And I'll be back on the other side of this break with Stephanie RISELEY as the X Zone continues live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
19 Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant, check. Officers on the scene.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawson, host of Paranormal Stakeout. With over 36 years in law enforcement, I have learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, how we gather the evidence, preserve that evidence, and present it to a jury of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Join me, Larry Lawson, every week on Paranormal Stakeout when, along with my guests, we'll take a journey to prove with indisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Go to xzbn.net for the broadcast schedule and check me out at paranormalstakeout.com.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today. www.soulbalancing.world.
right, Stephanie. Just follow me here for a second, and then I'm going to turn the microphone over to you. Why is it then, if time does not exist, if time is not linear, if time, according to quantum physics, has no beginning, has no ending, that time is basically non-existent, that when someone goes into a hypnotic regressive state, they don't go into the future. They always go in the past.
They do. No, they do. They can go into the future.
How many people go into the future compared to those who go in the past?
If I do forward progression.
What's the ratio? 50-50?
Oh, no. It's like let me just say that it is not my intention to make people believe things that aren't in their interest. My book, actually, Love from Both Sides, a true story of soul survival and sacred sexuality, I had to write only because this specific thing happened to me. It's a very grounded book. And it takes a very specific couple and follows it through 1 year. So I don't have a need to convince people that what happened to me is valid, true, or anything else.
All right, but if that's the case,
yes,
and you're saying that it is true.
It is true. For me, it was true to me, and it helps people who've had the same experience, because the people who've had the same experience faced what I faced, which was everybody thought I was crazy. Mm-hmm. Everyone I told the story to, they thought I was crazy, and so I went fine. But, you can go to my website, anybody listening to this, and you can read 4 chapters of the book. So
all right, I hate to do this, but we've just run out of time for this segment. Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us. Continued success, and her website is StephanieRiseley.com.
Riseley.com, right.
1-877-528-8255, toll free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. Stephanie Riseley has been our guest. And when we come back from the news on the other side, we'll be speaking to Dr. Shelley Carr. Now, do you believe what we just heard? I don't. I think that this is a way of her getting out of her $186,000 debt. Follow the money. It's that plain. It is that simple. Follow the money and you'll find the real reason why people do things in the name of helping others while they help themselves. Number of people have been sending me emails and MSN messages, and let me see. Out of 200 and some odd emails and MSN messages, nobody agrees with her. Mind you, that's here on the X-Zone. We take a look at things a little more seriously than a lot of the other shows do, who like to look at the woo-woo side of life as the real side of life. Well, we know the difference between fact and fiction and reality in this show. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern on the Talkstar Radio Network. www.talkstarradio.com is our network website, and our website, www.xzoneradio.com.